I want justice. I want an arrest for all four of those officers tonight. A murder conviction for all four of those officers.
So that is the brother of George Floyd calling for justice. Floyd, as you know, died earlier this week after he was arrested. This is a chilling video that we've seen over and over. An officer seen with his knee pressed against Floyd's neck. Anger and outrage is escalating this morning over this Floyd's death, sparking protests across the country, even here in Phoenix, as protesters flood the streets. They want answers. They want justice. And the four officers in this case have been fired, but many people want them arrested and charged, as you heard Floyd's brother say there. Now, this is a very emotional, very sensitive subject for a lot of people. So how do we make sense of it all? And what are some of the things that we can be doing to come together as a community to make sure every single person is protected and treated equally? So joining us this morning is Terrell. He's a racial justice coach and founder of the Social Centric Institute. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Could you tell me about your institute that you run here in Arizona?
Yeah, Social Centric is essentially a goal to heal historical trauma around how race impacts every identity, the way race impacts gender, class, religion, sexuality, physicality, and to get humans called white and humans called non-white, because we're humans first, to really confront the hard issues and begin to heal this stuff through education of children, youth, building economic models that do not exploit the earth, that create a real future for all people.
Here's the thing. We're having this conversation. I feel like we talk about healing all the time. And unfortunately, we keep coming across incidents like this that we have to figure out how to conversate. Now, how do you suggest we start conversations with this latest incident?
Well, the first thing I think we need to look at is the history of the United States. The United States was formed this way. The Boston Tea Party was looting and rioting. I was in London. I studied the American Revolution from the perspective of the British. We were called terrorists at the time. And so we have a history of violence that's the DNA of the USA. And in a sense, a lot of these youth right now are mimicking what our forefathers did. They're just not all white. So the first thing is recognizing that native land was taken, Mexican cession, where we're sitting right here in Arizona. This used to be Mexico. And chattel slavery created an economic wealth, and the Chinese Exclusion Act. This has never been a safe place for non-white people of any identity. And then poor white folks have also been exploited, but used as cannon fodder. So recognizing the historical context that has brought us to this point, and then looking at how these institutions like law enforcement have had their historical relationship with certain communities.
Okay, Calvin, I'm going to interrupt you because I get where you're coming from and I understand where you're coming from, but is that a realistic conversation with what's going on right now? This stuff is rapid, it's happening a lot. Do you think that there is any patience to talk about the history of things to finally undo everything that's going on and the awful mentalities that are out there?
I had 100+ youth on a Google Meets call yesterday from Minneapolis. I do a lot of work with Minneapolis Public Schools, Minnesota Department of Education, and what they're bringing up is that history. They are talking about that history. And the problem is there are people that do not know how to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. They're not humble in receiving the truth. And right now there is this huge escalation of just anger and explosion. That's going to dissipate. That will, right? What is going to start to happen, though, my concern is posse comitatus, is that the deputization of white nationalist militia groups, because the people will call the police inept. So the forces like myself and you that are out here talking about this, that are not out in the street, that are not there, yelling and screaming, we need to be having this conversation, because some of those youth are eventually going to come home and have to go to bed. And that's when the conversation can happen.
So as a leader for racial justice, how are you digesting what's going on? I mean, I know you are the leader and you are trying to talk to people and get people to sort out their feelings, but personally, how does this hit you?
It's a symptom. What happened with George Floyd isn't the issue, it's a symptom. What Amy Cooper did in Central Park, she wanted the George Floyd incident. So the situation with Amy Cooper is actually what created this. That thinking that's in all people of all colors. Anti-blackness and anti-indigeneity is a huge issue. So I'm not a leader of racial justice. I'm a servant of racial justice, and I think that's the challenge. Is we have to recognize that our leadership is inept, and we need people that are going to step up and serve healing in a way that isn't patronizing, that isn't sugar-coated, that doesn't play to white fragility, that is about real change.
Calvin Terrell, the founder of the Social Centric Institute, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and I think we're going to be having a lot more conversations in the weeks and months to come. So thank you for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you for what you do.